What's going on, guys? Carmine here, back with another review for Season 6, Episode 8 of Game of Thrones. Traditionally, this show has kept to its lineup of having some heavy things go down in the last 3 episodes of the season. In Season 4, we had Oberyn Martell versus the Mountain Fight. In Season 5, we had Jon Snow's journey to Hardhome. Both epic episodes which delivered on a lot of points and really shook things up in the world, both in terms of story development and scope. I hate to say it, but this Season 6 did not deliver on what the standard they've previously set up. Now, I won't say that this was the worst episode we've gotten this season, because I still hold firm that episode 1 would be the worst, but this week definitely won't be making my top 5. Before I begin the video, I must stress one important thing that some people failed to understand in my video for last week's episode. This is a review video, and everything said here is my opinion. If you disagree with anything I say here, you're welcome to dispute me in the comments section or make a response video explaining why you thought otherwise. But as I said, this is a review video, and my job here is to make sure I point out all the good stuff and the bad. For the 99% of you who understand this, I apologize for having to explain it, but there is always that 1% who don't get it, so I felt this was necessary to point out. Now with that out of the way, let's get to the review. First, let's start with King's Landing. One of the most hyped up moments of the Season 6 trailers was Cersei's one-liner, "I choose violence," and I was waiting for it all season. It felt like as soon as she said that, then all hell would break loose, and for a minute it did, but then it stopped for whatever reason. We've seen the zombie mountain destroy people before, but I wanted a little more carnage on the sparrows, and especially Lancel. For such a destructive force of a man, he is becoming very underutilized this season. The main purpose of King's Landing this episode is to deal another hit to Cersei, who planned on relying on the old Lannister maneuver, trial by combat. Well, now that is out of the question because the High Sparrow had Tommen outlaw the practice, probably after he realized that there aren't any more crazy bisexual Dornish princes willing to fight the zombie mountain. Now, this would be kind of douchey for me to say, but what I'm loving this season about Cersei's situation is that her power is leaving her, and the situation is becoming much more dire. Somehow she's holding it all together that it's almost inhuman. At this point, any normal person would be in a deep depression and crying constantly over the humiliation, helplessness, and loneliness she must be feeling. Her only loyal companions are Frankenstein and his monster, which are about as comforting as a dinner date with Ramsay. We also find out that Qyburn has learned some devious secret, possibly about the High Sparrow, which is a sure setup for their confrontation in the last episode of the season. And as I said, my one disappointment with the King's Landing stuff was how anticlimactic the whole "I choose violence" scene turned out to be. I expected him to take out his sword and go crazy on those fools, but he just ripped one guy's head off. I did, however, enjoy the little twist Tommen brought in this week by outlawing the trial by combat practice, which really does remove Cersei's option for survival. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the High Sparrow isn't a fool, and it's possible that ever since he had his first meeting with Cersei in Season 5, he's been playing her all this time. She thought she could use him, but he used her and is slowly removing her options in every single episode. He's a great player in the King's Landing scene, and at this point, she'll have no options left to play other than blowing up the city with wildfire, which seems to be a theory amongst many people, and I can see where they're getting at here. It's later foreshadowed in the conversation with Jaime and Edmure about the love mothers have for their children. But the King's Landing stuff was a mixed bag for me, and once again, there wasn't enough here to keep me really invested in much of what was going on, but I am curious about her next move, and I'm really hoping she and Tommen are secretly working together, because if not, then her setting the whole city on fire will really start seeming very probable. Also, I'm starting to feel bad for Kevin because he's really pissing her off, but something tells me he won't be making it to the next season. But King's Landing was okay for me. It's becoming a guilty pleasure of mine watching Cersei get what's coming to her, but I'm also hoping for some type of plan B or master plan to come through and surprise us all. Now let's turn to the Riverlands, where Brienne and Podrick have arrived on scene. I did like the little scene between Bronn and Podrick. As I said in my previous video, Bronn can be paired up with anybody and make it fun and interesting. He's pretty much saying what we're all thinking at this point about Brienne and Jaime, and here's hoping he survives till next season. But let's move on to the main course with Jaime and Brienne, and in this episode, their interaction was really cool and a little cute. It almost felt like two professional people who like each other a lot, but they're trying not to show it in the work environment. I don't want to go ahead and say that Brienne and Jaime are like hardcore in love, but you can tell he has some respect for her, and he sees a lot of himself in her. And no, I don't mean that sexually. Some people are saying that he likes Brienne a lot more than Cersei, and that he went all douchebag on Edmure, threatening his child, because he wanted the siege to end quickly before Brienne was put in danger. While that does make sense, I don't think he loves her more than Cersei. Jaime and Brienne have been through a lot of things, and she helped bring him back from a big depression in Season 3, and in a way you could say that she is his best friend. She was with him through a lot of shit, and to me, what they have is a mutual respect for each other as friends. I like to think that not every man and woman on television need to fall in love with each other. As for the whole conversation Jaime had with Edmure, I liked it a lot. Jaime has changed a lot since Season 1, and in a way I kind of miss him being a jerk a little, and we got to see a bit of that here. I do like Edmure's take on Jaime and how we've come to see him as a good guy, but to the real good guys, Jaime is just another asshole, and that makes sense. During their conversation, you could sense a little desperation in Jaime for wanting the whole thing to be over with. Not because Brienne was in there, but because he wants to get back to Cersei, and even I'm surprised he came out and told Edmure about that. But eventually he does convince Edmure to have the gates lowered, and I did like the scene between the Blackfish and the Tully soldiers. Edmure is Lord of Riverrun, and it shows how loyal many of these soldiers can be to their own. But my disappointment in the Riverlands scenes comes mainly from the Blackfish and his stupidity. For him to stay at the castle and die was terrible and poor writing on the showrunner's part. And if you're wondering why, well, it's because their family words are family, duty, honor, in that order. Their house puts family above all else. He could have gone with Brienne because he is well known throughout the continent as one of the best soldiers to have under your command. He may not have had the numbers needed to defeat the Boltons, but having him around does help in many other ways. His decision was selfish and made no sense. The House Tully words are taught to Bran in Season 1 by Maester Luwin, so even if you hadn't read the books, you would still know that. Hell, I was watching the episode with someone who hadn't read them, and even they thought it was a dumb decision. What really gets me is that they brought back another great character and did absolutely nothing with him, and he just ended up being some old man yelling at people to get off his lawn. The Blackfish was another character wasted just to get Jaime out of King's Landing. They did this last season when they introduced the Sand Snakes and House Martell for that exact reason, and they still managed to fuck it up. All to get Jaime out of King's Landing and give him something to do. I'm all for that, but how hard is it to make his trip actually mean something? While his conversation with Brienne was cool, and I did like the little wave he did to her, it would have meant more had Brienne actually accomplished her mission in bringing the guy back with her to Sansa. It also was a huge slap in the face to the audience to have the guy die off screen too. I mean, come on, if you're going to bring back someone like him, at least give him an honorable death like you gave Barristan. But once again, the Riverlands. Like King's Landing, it's just a mixed bag for me. While I love Brienne and Jaime together, and Jaime's speech to Edmure, I really hated that resolution with the Blackfish and how it made no sense. It's almost as though they're just bringing back old characters to quickly kill them off so their fates aren't just left hanging out there before they finish the series. It was very anticlimactic and seems like a little like lazy writing. And speaking of lazy writing, we come to the Hound on the Warpath. It starts off simple enough with him chopping off some heads, kicking ass, and taking names. And then we find out that it wasn't the Brotherhood without banners, but just some of their members gone rogue. Instead of tearing them apart, he just helps them in the punishment by kicking a block of wood from under their feet. Wow, way to cock tease an entire episode's worth of revenge into a minute of resolution. We spend almost an entire episode with those people, they get killed, and it's basically resolved so quickly. I almost don't get the point of this. I mean, I get the point is to have the Hound team up with Beric Dondarrion and Thoros of Myr, and it sounds like they're gearing up for a fight against the Night's King, which is cool. I get that. But why couldn't those three guys actually engage in an all-out fight with him? Once again, I understand that that's not everything in the episode needs to be like an action movie, but if that's the case, then don't set up your storylines for a big fight scene and then just leave him to assist in their deaths. The only thing in the scenes with the Hound that I really enjoyed is his interactions with the Brotherhood before and after those guys are killed. The idea of the Hound joining up with them and heading north is awesome, and I would love for a reunion with him and Sansa. Shame they couldn't have gotten there before the big battle of episode 9, but the thought of him coming back next season is still great, and there leaves a lot of room here for what they can do. Oh, and just so you know, now that it's confirmed that Beric is still alive, that means no Lady Stoneheart. Hate to break it to you guys. Well, maybe not yet. Maybe the Hound's narrative this season will show us, but I'm doubting the hell out of it, and Cleganebowl is losing steam very fast if he's heading north, and his brother is still south in King's Landing. This episode has been really bad for fan theories. Over in Meereen, we get Varys and Tyrion one last time before he departs for places unknown, all in an effort to help Dany get to Westeros. For me, I love these guys this season. I always enjoy their banter, and Varys, to me, is always a joy to see on screen. Some people believe Varys is heading to Dorne to find allies there that would love to see the Lannisters overthrown in King's Landing, and I'm a part of that group. One of the many friends Dany will find in Westeros will start with the people who hate those in power, and House Martell will definitely be one of those people. I also noticed one tiny little thing that not a lot of people caught on to. Varys and Dany are never in the same place at the same time. I'm not saying they're the same person, although I would love to hear the theory behind that one. I think there is some major reveal that the showrunners are keeping from us that would spoil something about her lineage. Varys has been the spy master in King's Landing since before she was born, and he could shed light on a lot of secrets we still don't know. One of the biggest is that maybe her father isn't the Mad King, but is actually Rhaegar, which would make her half Stark. But Meereen was very short this episode, and it started off good, but then went almost nowhere with that cringeworthy scene between Tyrion, Missandei, and Grey Worm. Originally, I thought their banter in previous episodes was charming, but this went on for way too long. It's interrupted when the combined forces of the Bastards start attacking Meereen. Tyrion was wrong, and they're making sure he knows that. But it's okay. We'll mount a counterattack. We still have some siege weapons we used to catapult the collars of slaves into Meereen back in Season 4. Let's use those to fire back, gather the troops, and we'll launch a push against their troops. Nope, wait. Dany's here with Drogon. Never mind, everybody go back to your beds, go home. Dany's here with her dragon that can fly over the water and burn things below. Never mind, everybody go back to their drinking. Okay, let me ask you a question. The people watching this video, let me ask you a question. What do you think is going to happen in Meereen in episode 10? Just take a guess. Pause this video right now and write in the comments below how you think Meereen will be resolved by episode 10. If you guess that Dany will release all 3 dragons on the enemy fleet, then you are probably right. We haven't seen the 3 dragons kick ass together since the end of Season 2 against the Warlocks. There was an earlier scene with Tyrion and the other 2 dragons, and the purpose of that was to mainly show us that they still exist, much like the young Benjen reveal with Brienne, to remind the audience that the other 2 dragons are still there. But this really annoys me because it ruined the suspense and sense of danger that Meereen had this entire episode. They're outnumbered and probably being attacked from both land and sea, and they'll need to hold out until she comes back, but they don't know if she's coming back at all. Her landing in there just in time completely ruins suspense. It's almost as though they're working against their own show. We all thought she was going to come in on episode 10 with the Dothraki, all Rohirrim style, but no, she has dragons, so it's all good. Everybody go home! Seriously? No matter how annoyed you are with my complaint of this scene, if you're annoyed at all, you've got to agree that her suddenly showing up removes the tension in that scene. Personally, I thought Dany shouldn't have shown up at all between episodes 4 and episode 10. Watching the Dothraki kneel before her was a great way to close out most of her storyline this season, and the whole speech she gave later on to the Dothraki was just off for me. I would have loved if they left her off in episode 4 with the Dothraki kneeling before her, and then brought her back with all of them in episode 10 to save the city. I'm sorry, but I really hated Meereen this episode, and even Varys, who is tied with Peter as my favorite character, couldn't save it. And finally, we come to Arya and Braavos, who seek shelter with Lady Crane. She helps Arya heal her injuries and gives her the milk of the poppy, which is really not something you should take, especially considering how addicting it can be. Milk of the poppy is basically morphine, and in the books, some characters are known to be addicted to it, like the Mountain before he was killed. Now, I really hated that Lady Crane had to die because I liked her character a lot, but once a name is given, the deed must be carried out. The waif breaks in and kills her. Arya sees this and runs off. One of the many complaints people had with this is Arya's injuries and how they should have slowed her down, but you could make the argument that she's been through a lot worse pain, and when you're running for your life, you really don't worry about the other things too much. I also really liked the Terminator-style chase sequence that went down in this episode. Having them run around through Braavos was pretty cool. The scene with Arya and Braavos this episode was epic, and I absolutely loved how she lured the waif into her little den and shut off the light in order to win. Arya had to do that because she's used to fighting in the dark. She was blind, and the waif should have seen that coming, especially since she was the one fighting blind Arya. Now, I think I speak for everyone when I say I really wanted to see them fight, but at the same time, I get it. In order for her to win, it had to be done, but it is a shame. She cuts off the waif's face and places it on the wall of faces and tells Jaqen that she's done with this whole thing and is going home. Some people called it dumb that Jaqen is just letting her leave like that, but I think it's what happened here is that Jaqen just let loose a monster. Arya has most of their knowledge. She's shown that she can wear and remove faces. His little smile there at the end proves that he knows exactly what he's doing. All I gotta say is, I feel bad for everybody on her list, but Arya and Braavos, I did enjoy. Overall, this was an episode of cock teases. We expected the Hound to go insane and kill them all, but he just assists in hanging them. We expected the Mountain to go crazy and kill all the sparrows, but no, he just kills one guy. We expect an amazing battle between the Blackfish and the Lannister soldiers, but no, he goes down off screen. And then we get Arya versus the Waif, which was a long-awaited fight, and it was done off screen, but I can forgive that one because it made sense. But what really annoyed me is if the previous episode was given an extra 10 minutes, we could have resolved almost all these storylines then and there. If episode 7 extended to an actual hour of runtime, we could have concluded the Hound, Blackfish, and maybe even the Arya scenes if you cut out Lady Crane. In hindsight, it really does seem like a waste of an episode with how little was given for any of these scenes to conclude. I know this is going to piss off some people because I know some of you are fiercely loyal to the show, but it's just sloppy writing, and it feels like there isn't episode 8, but episode 7.5. Just like how I feel episode 1 looked like deleted scenes from season 5, episode 10, this really felt like part 2 to the last episode. Now don't get me wrong, as much as I dislike some of these choices, I did think that it was an okay week, but it's definitely not in my top 5 for the season. Definitely not the worst, but it's up there with episode 1 though. I think what the episode's main goal is to basically get everything done as quickly as possible to set up for some episode 10 shockers, and to make sure they're able to freely go into the Battle of Bastards without too many lingering questions. But in the end, that makes the storyline and the season overall suffer. When you end everything too quickly like that, your characters are given little room to shine or do anything meaningful at all. The Blackfish was reintroduced last episode and then is quickly killed off this episode, and it almost felt utterly pointless. While I feel like this episode was slightly better than last week's, it still doesn't feel like the quality of Game of Thrones that the audience has come to expect. And before anybody says it in the comments section, yes, I understand not every episode needs hardcore action, and I agree. But to have a lot of hyped up storylines coming to an end in very anticlimactic ways is just not good television. For a series that has redefined how good television is made, this doesn't seem like the same show that has kept me entertained for the past 5 years. Don't get me wrong, I still love every bit of it, but in my opinion, you can't call yourself a true fan of something without having the balls to critique it and call out some flaws. If you enjoyed every bit of this episode, that's fine. I feel like the show has done better and can do better, but this is one of those episodes where they've stumbled. As always, let me know what you thought down below. If you enjoyed the video, then support the channel and hit that like button. Subscribe if you already haven't. Share the video around and let's get a discussion going. I'll see you guys next time. Baba Booey.